Hello and welcome back to Colette and Matt Have Entered the Chat, a weekly conversation about the very most important topic on the face of this beautiful blue planet we call Earth. That's right, it's video games. And I gotta say, thank God we're doing this because, Colette, you're here, you're with me. Hello.
Hello.
I don't know if you've been on the internet.
You know, one would say that I have visited there.
Okay, you have been there, so you'll back me up on this. There's not a lot of video game content. There's not a lot of discussion or news.
It's kind of a desert
there. It's a desert. And so we thought, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time to put video games on the internet where they belong.
To break
and we
brave
are here.
new ground. This is a brave new world.
So we don't... Bear with us, dear listeners, because we don't know how this works, but we hope that you're enjoying this conversation and that you will join in with us. How are you? What's going on?
I'm pretty good, actually. I'm having one of those weeks where it feels like, you know, things are in place and I have enough energy and I get enough sleep. And it's like, oh, I love when these happen.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that
yes,
nice?
I'm cherishing it for exactly what it is, which is just that.
I really know what you mean, like in a deep sense. And because, there's just been too many weeks where it's like, things are out of sync and out of whack and I'm not loving this and this is going wrong.
And I feel like adulthood too, like, you know, when I was younger, right, it's like, I feel like I didn't think about this that much, but like as an adult, you know, I feel like I have this long to-do list in my head every day that's like, you need to get this much sleep, you need to eat this, you need to drink this much water, you need to take this many steps, you know, and it's like, it's a lot to demand of oneself, right? But on the other hand, I'm like, well, as I get older, I need to think about things like this. So yeah, I feel like it's like a balancing act now that it wasn't as much when I was a lot younger.
That's always the case.
And this is without kids, mind you.
Sure. Tell me if you can relate to this. I try to be mindful of health and mental health and all this stuff. And like, you know, we're making sure to keep hydrated and making sure to get those steps. But like a lot of that stuff doesn't, it does matter. But like for that week to click into place, for me, the only thing that matters is like, was I productive this week? Did I get the things done? Because I could like eat shit and go to bed at 2 a.m. But if I got shit done, I'm like, yeah, I feel great.
Yeah, see, I'm almost the opposite. Like that's how I was like that in my like 20s and 30s more.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, if I don't like get the sleep and get the steps and drink the water, I'm going to feel like shit and I'm not going to get anything done. So
that's
like,
right. That's absolutely
that's how it works for me now, but it used to be the opposite. So yeah,
it's a cycle that reinforces itself because you're like, I didn't get anything done, so I'm gonna stay up late and watch movies, and then you're gonna feel worse the next day, and then get less done, and then that's gonna feel bad. And
and I don't know why this works this way, but like, you know, there's a lot of people on Earth that can be like, I got 5 hours of sleep, I'm fine. I sleep 8 to 10 hours a night, and if I get literally 10 minutes less than that, I am a bona fide bitch.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works. I don't know why.
I'm with you.
And it's not good.
What the hell is up with those 5 hours a night people? And are they real? Are they just bullshitters?
They are, but I feel like they pay for it in mental functioning and in all these other ways. Like I have a friend who works overnights and like she's worked them for a long time, but like I know they kick her butt, you know, and like and she's well adjusted, I think, in comparison to how some other people could be. I could never do that. So I tip my hat to anybody able to do something like that. But yeah, dude, I'm what I call a sleep Nazi. I'm like, cool, 9:30, time to go brush my teeth and get ready for bed. I need to like unplug my phone and I need to read for a half hour and I need to chill and like, yeah. And I remember when I was in my 30s, people would like make fun of me. Oh, they'd be like, oh, you got to get home. You got to get home so you can get to bed on time. And I'm like, yeah, you know why? Because in 10 years, you're going to look like shit and I'm going to look great.
Yeah. It's really 100% true and right.
It's funny. It's always the stuff that people say, like, quote unquote, like, oh, that's so boring. And, you know, there's a meme that says, like, all of my childhood punishments are like my like adult pleasures, like, you know, going to bed early and, you know, I don't know, just like stuff like that, like, you know, getting extra
cleaning
sleep.
up your room
Cleaning
is
your
actually
room,
quite
right,
nice
you know,
to do.
now as an adult you're like, oh, it looks great.
Just need to clean this place. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny how that in general changes over the course of your life, I find.
This is so off topic, but there's a delightful book series. God, it's escaping me. It's a kids book series where it's an owl who just wants to go to bed, but the owl's parents are like, nope, you're an owl. You must stay up and hoot all night. And it's flipping the whole thing on its head. And then there's another that's like it's like a little pea that what is it? The pea wants to eat like healthy foods, but the parents are like, no, eat your candy, and the pea is like, ugh, candy, you know. And they're just, it's exactly that trope that that reversal that you were saying, but like for kids. And we have a bunch of those, and the kids loved them when they were
I love that.
little.
That's so cool.
That's
in
cute.
An alternate life, I would love to write kids books. I think it would be so fun.
Mm-hmm. You just need to. The modern kids books that are good subvert some expectations. You know, BJ Novak, who was on The Office, who's a comedian, you know, you'd know him if you saw him. He wrote a kid's book called The Book with No Pictures. I'm sure if parents are listening, they're aware of this book, but it's a book with no pictures, which is antithetical to most children's books. And the whole book is like forcing the grown-up to like read silly words, which then makes the kid laugh. And, you know, and then you're acting silly because the book is like forcing you to be ridiculous. And the kid's like, that's great. This is, you know, it's just very clever from a kid's mind point of view. And it's hard to get in that mindset as an adult.
Right. Yeah. No, that sounds incredibly cool.
Well, on to more important things. We are here to discuss video games. And today, really, most importantly, what we are currently playing. We asked you, dear listeners, what you are currently playing, and we got some good stuff here that I would love to discuss with you because I would like to know your experiences with these games, if any, and also like our perceptions of these games outside looking in if we've not played them, which we have discussed with these listeners on Twitter, on Discord, and such. So I'll kick it off with tweets from Technophile. That's Will. He says, Destiny 2, as per usual. I'm curious what thoughts you two have regarding live service games. When one gets hooks in me, I have a hard time finding time to play anything else. I understand that's not appealing for a lot of folks, but I enjoy a game that, quote, never ends. I #relatable, Will. I deeply understand this. What do you have a game in your life like this or no?
Right now, I really don't. And the more I think about it, the more I feel like I have not really had what I would call like a living game that I think held because I think Will's been playing Destiny for a pretty long time. I don't think I've ever had like a game that had a living world that I've stayed in that long. I definitely played like MMOs when they were in their big heyday. So like I played like, you know, WoW and City of Heroes and even EverQuest a little, like, you know, really old stuff. But my thing about MMOs was always that I felt like the story that I really enjoyed in RPGs was like kind of not, you know, since it's an ongoing thing, like the story, it wasn't the kind of storytelling that I personally craved because there couldn't be an ending.
Right.
At that time. And my understanding from people who play Final Fantasy XIV is that it has an incredible story, which is like I love Final Fantasy, but then the other part of me is like, okay, I could sign up and start playing that, but like, when am I going to have time to play anything else? Like as it is, I only like honestly can play like 1, maybe 2 games a week before it's time for us to talk about them on the podcast. So I'm like, you know, I don't think this is the time for me, to hop in. That said, when I read this comment, the first thought I had was, oh man, what if Hades was a live service, a living world that I could have gone back to and done things in? And my first thought was, I would love that. But then my second thought was, part of what I love so much about Hades was the way the story was told and resolved. So I don't know if games that never end would really be for me, because I'm not really a big sandbox gamer,
Yeah.
I'm not saying Destiny's a sandbox. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. My understanding of Destiny is that it's a bit there. Well, there's a couple threads here. We're actually going to talk about Final Fantasy. It's 14? Is that the MMO?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because 15 was
yeah, that's right.
Was the boy band Final Fantasy, which worked out for me super well.
That is its own topic, but okay. Destiny is a squad-based hopping in with friends, hopping in with randos to complete missions. And I also have played a lot of Warframe, which is in a similar vein.
Okay.
And then you have I don't know, traditional MMOs, or let's call them sandbox MMOs, where it is an open world, do what you want, be what you want, and the story is created by the players. And I hear what you are saying 100% loud and clear, and that's like, I'm going to play a game and enjoy a story. But
right. But I think maybe today what I could be missing out on is that games like this now have more developed, maybe even moving stories. Like Will linked in our Discord, he linked a Destiny story video, and I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but just starting it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it's something that I'm missing out on, and I'd be open-minded to it if the right thing hit me.
They've matured. I think what you're getting at is that these games have matured or become hybrid story / emergent games because, and tell me what you think about this, I missed the MMO train back in the WoW EverQuest days. I have zero experience with them outside of reading about them and being aware of them culturally and understanding the communities a bit that, congregated there. And my understanding of those games was, here's a backdrop of lore. This is happening in the Warcraft universe. You've got these heroes, you've got these factions, you've got these towns, and go. And I understand that there are little story arcs and raids and quests and stuff, but the real jam that's going on in this game is, hey man, I'm running this gold farm on the side and we're going to mine all these things. And then I'm going to sell this to you because you need that. And we've got a guild going that does XYZ. And just that, I freaking love that. That is, I know video games can tell stories and they can tell amazing stories, but if you put the gun to my head and said, hey, you can only play certain types of games forever, I am intrigued by the EVE Onlines of the world, which I have dabbled in, and it's rad. It's so cool. I
have a question. So Will calls it a live service game. So what does that define? That's not just an MMO, obviously, because Destiny is not an MMO. So live service just basically means that the game continues to be updated with new content?
Yes.
Okay.
The game is online only or online mostly. And
gotcha.
And again, I don't know Destiny much, but it's I'll use Warframe as an example. You can play through the story quests solo. You can grind out all the missions solo if you really want to, but the game is rad when you develop you develop a class or you develop a play style. And in Warframe, it's not it's not a cleric or a fighter or whatever. It is, you control these sort of like robotic. They are called warframes. You are controlling them, and they are the classes. So one of the frames has magnet powers, and one of the frames has armor, and they all have different abilities. And so the fun happens and there's 40 different frames, and some of them are silly and useless, and some of them are core to the gameplay. And so you're hopping into a mission, and you're okay, I'm going to make sure the enemies don't get near this objective because I have magnet powers that's going to like shoosh them away from the area. And then this other player is going to come in and freeze all of the zones so that no enemies attack. And this other player is the heavy and is going to just blast everyone out of the whatever. And this other player is like super fast. And so when the frame abilities start to synergize, you're like, oh shit, I can now grind these resources 3x faster because I'm hopping in with players. And I think some people are like, yes, I play with my friends, my buddies all the time. That's what we do. And sometimes you're just in like a recruiting chat channel saying, hey, I need 2 more people to hop into this mission. Let me know when you're ready. And then people will be like, all right, I need this too. Let's go. Are you running Necros? Okay, I got Mag, you've got whatever. And then you sort of figure out the game plan and you hop in and go. And then it's set in the backdrop of a very cool story that you unlock slowly at your own pace. But really it's about like, hey, this new gun is really cool. And I need it. I need this cape because it's cool. So I need to play this mission 700 times to get the stuff.
Yeah.
And to your point about live service, yes, new chapters of content, new chapters of story. Like the Warframe is a squad based, like running through corridors, shooting stuff, doing missions, and that's cool. And then they added space combat, which is the part of the game that I think is the coolest, but it's still emerging. And what it is like, I'm the pilot. You're on the guns, you're putting out fires on the ship, and we're flying through space, and holy crap, everything's going crazy and everything's going wrong. Do your job, because we're going to go down if you don't put the fire out. And that has so much potential, and it's pretty rad. So again, I don't know if that sort of... I know Destiny's cooperative, but I don't know if there's more to Destiny than like, shoot these 100 enemies again. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, according to Will, there absolutely is. And it made me curious to, at the very least, read about it, even if it's not necessarily my specific type of game. But the thought I continue to have is, as you're kind of fleshing this out for me, is that I'm thinking about a feature I wrote for Destructoid literally a lifetime ago. And it was called... being a solo gamer in a multiplayer world. And around the time that I worked there, the 360 was very popular, and also playing online with people was a big deal.
Halo, right?
Yeah, Halo. I think there were probably some other things too, but like people were on the 360 playing games, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like strangers. I don't want to play games with strangers at all. That's not fun for me. And I've always identified myself as not a competitive gamer until I found Pistol Whip, but that's like literally an entire episode's topic.
Yes,
I'm not going to touch that. But I'm an only child that found a lot of solace and magic in games that I played alone. So I think that kind of got set into the formula so early. And I have played some games online, but I still don't like playing with strangers, mostly because around the time of the Xbox 360 online play, when it got really big, it immediately became really obvious that you were going to hear, words that people should not be saying. And, if you're, a woman and you go on and someone hears your female voice, you might get called something that you don't want to get called, or just get weird flack. And I wasn't into that. And there were definitely like women I knew who played Halo, and like they would go in there and they would love that shit, because if someone would come after them, they'd like, go off on them. And I was just not that person. Like, I just didn't want that. So I think that this is a whole dimension of gaming that like is kind of lost on me, because if I'm going to play a game with someone else, it needs to be someone I know and really trust, actually. Yeah. And that's not something that I think a lot of online gamers require, whereas it's something that I do. But the other truth of the matter is I just prefer gaming by myself like 98% of the time.
Yep. So this is all making me think about how I made the leap into a live service game because I am exactly like you in this regard.
Really?
Always played solo, had no interest in interacting with strangers. And I don't know why I started playing Warframe. And also this is absolutely not me saying like, "Yay, you're missing out. You should really do this." I'm not saying that at all, but I'm going to tell you a brief story about what clinched it for me, which is I don't remember why I was drawn to Warframe, but started playing it and stayed in my lane. I was just like, I'm not turning on the online. I'm just playing solo missions to figure out the game. I'll be over here. And then what's cool about it and what I'm very intrigued by in many online games, especially like MMOs, is the economy. And so Warframe does have a player-driven economy where there's a premium currency, but that you can earn. I've never spent a dime on this game. Like you can pay for cosmetics and you can pay for the premium currency. I've never spent any money except to like donate to charity because they do a lot of charity stuff. And so you can grind out the premium stuff and then sell it in the in-game economy for more of you can sell the stuff you make and craft for premium currency and then use that to buy stuff. So you look at the craziness of this game and you're like, well, I like this area of the game, so I will spend 20 hours grinding that. I don't like this other area, but I want that gun, so I'll just do my thing and trade my loot that I got for someone else's time. It's like you're trading time in that way. So anyway, it's a long-winded way to say I had never traded with another player before. Didn't really understand how it works. There's all these third-party tools. And so I was like, whatever it was, I don't remember what it was. I was like, I need this or I have this, asking somebody or a chat channel, and someone's like, hey, I got that. Let's meet at, the dojo, which is like your clan, space station or whatever. And so I'm suddenly in someone else's game. And I was like, okay, here's this thing and you're going to give me this thing. And then I didn't have enough money to cover the trade tax for the transaction. So to your point, you would expect this person to be like, fuck this, disconnect. I don't have time for this person. But instead, this player was like, hey, no problem. Why don't you squad up with me and I'm going to take you to Pluto, which is a planet in the game that I had no business being on. It was very far away from my skill level cap or whatever. And I know this mission where if we just do this little quick mission together, we're going to make, 50,000 credits or whatever it was. I was like, okay, hop in. The mission is like completely overwhelming. I don't know what's going on. This player carries me through the entire mission so that I can make money to cover the transaction fee on the trade that I don't know the gender of the player, so that they were trying to do with me. And so this player went like 20 minutes out of their way to drag a noob into a high level mission so that we could transact.
Right. That's
and
pretty
I was
rad.
like, wow, this is what a cool community. And I learned later over time through playing a lot of this fucking game that is the ethos of this community. P.S.
Nice.
The community team at Digital Extremes who run all the streams, who communicate new features, et cetera, they're just wonderful. They're cool people. B, all women. This is a shoot 'em up, blast 'em up, sci-fi, kick-ass space ninja game that you think is going to be like a broy game. All the public-facing people are women. I don't know about the development team. I'm sure there's plenty of dudes who program the game, but all the public-facing community managers are these kick-ass ladies who are like, hey, what do you need? What's working? What's not? We're going to listen to you. We're going to make these changes. Hey, we're streaming on Fridays, whatever. It's a master's class in community development. And anyway, I'm bloviating here, and all this to say that I am exactly like you. I am a single player person. I've always been afraid of those encounters. And now I believe Warframe is my most played game on Steam. Not my favorite game, not my top 5 favorite game, but my most played game. of all
That's
time.
awesome. And well, I love that you had like the exception experience. And while you were talking, it also occurred to me that I do have a live service game. I don't play it all the time, but I realized that I do have one. It was Diablo 2. I played Diablo 2 for 10 years, then dovetailed into 3, played 3 a bunch. And as soon as 4 comes out, like you won't be able to rip me off of that. I love Diablo. I just absolutely love it. And I think the reason why, funny enough, it's really not about the story, although I appreciate the story is like really great window dressing, but like I just really enjoy the way it feels to kill shit in Diablo.
Yeah, man.
Like the way it feels, the way it handles. And I also, from Diablo 2 on, have always partied with other friends, specifically, you know, agreeing to meet up and on Battle.net and play it. So I guess that's my game. But Diablo 3, I didn't play for as many years as Diablo 2. I don't know why I kept going back to Diablo 2, but man, let me tell you, there's a remake coming of Diablo 2 and holy
it looks so
crap.
Fucking good.
Yeah, I could be like gone forever when that happens. So
you should. And I keep seeing discussions of the alpha where it's like, no, they didn't just update the graphics, like, or they're
updating all these things.
It's really very true to it is core and true to the original, but so pretty and
we should play.
Modern.
Honestly, like if you're a fan too, we should play, and maybe we could even encourage some community people to come play with us. That would be really nice.
I would love to go back to it. And I'll say one more thing about this. Again, it's not a pitch, but like I think Destiny 2 and Warframe and these kinds of like kill 'em up games is 3D Diablo in space. By that I mean do this mission 40 times because I really want that fucking cool ass sword. That's what Warframe is at its core. And so if you are hooked on those loops in a Diablo environment, you'll get that crack from these games too. They just look and feel different, but this, you know, that satisfaction from the kills is it's a bloodbath. You know, definitely in Warframe.
No, definitely. That's so cool. I'm glad we had the conversation because, you know, in the beginning of it, I was like, I don't even know if I really truly grasp what a live service game is other than a game you pay to play. But yeah, like now that I've kind of sounded it out in my mind, and also like hearing your experience is inspiring too, because it makes me go, well, maybe Diablo is not the only like live service game that I'll ever find that I like, you know, jive with that way. And for me, I'm sure you can relate to this. Diablo, going back to any Diablo game was like a comfort. It was like, oh yeah, like you know, like this is exactly what I'm going to go do. And like, you know what to expect, but also like, there's just something you enjoy going back and kind of like, you know, getting into the groove of.
Such an important game, Diablo. My God, seeing it, hearing it every now and then, I'm like, damn, this game is so good. Have you played Path of Exile, which is a super duper free to play live service game, which is essentially a clone of Diablo?
I feel like someone has told me about it before. I might have like bought it and it's sitting in my like library and like not actually played it.
I mean, it's 100% free. There's no, and Warframe's free. Destiny is now free to play and then you buy expansions, but it's funny you said something like, oh, pay the subscription fee. But the model has moved away from the WoW subscription fee and is very much free to play. And then the question there is like, okay, well, is the gacha mechanic abusive or is it fair?
Right. Right.
And that's going to vary from game to game.
Well, that makes more sense because I mean, we, you know, now more actively, obviously, are willing to pay for, you know, microtransactions. And I remember like, you know, once again, back in the Detoid days, like when like microtransactions started to appear, people were like fucking appalled.
Fuck no.
Oh my God, they were so appalled. And now it's like, you know, you don't really need to charge a person for your game. You just need to let them get into it. And then, you know, if they want to spend money on it, which many of them will, like that, let them hop in and, you know, do it then. So I think it's genius. And I'm not going to say what I was about to say next because this once again is also another topic that could be a whole show.
Okay. Write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down.
I'll write it down.
Let's briefly let's touch on the other bucket here, because I'm fascinated by Final Fantasy XIV. Megalith in your Discord channel, or a Discord server rather, says currently playing Final Fantasy XIV a lot. Hype for the new expansion Endwalker, which like people are going bananas about, and I get that. Megalith says, has me bouncing off the walls with excitement, so I've been going ham, finishing a bunch of stuff I've been slacking on, I guess getting ready to do that expansion. And I asked, like, you know, what keeps you hooked to this MMO? And Megalith says, you know, it's a good MMO for people looking to break into MMOs who care more for high quality story content. And then again, this is like speaking exactly to what you just said, because I don't know. It doesn't. Final Fantasy XIV does not sound or look like a sandbox. It looks like you're the mythical hero and everyone else is also the mythical hero. And there's something about that I don't know. It is a little less appealing to me, because in, you know, for example, EVE Online, you're fucking nobody until you make something of yourself, and your value is entirely social. Like, you can accrue wealth and ships and territory and whatever, but like, if I just want to like scam people and like fuck with people or be a spy or what, like, there's no game mechanics for that. You just do it if you want to, and you'll get fucked up or you'll be successful. It's like it's a real place in that regard. So that is fascinating to me. As a Final Fantasy fan, I'm intrigued by 14, but I don't know if that's where I want to put my time. I tried installing
it. Well, first of all, I think no, it was 11 that I actually played with people. So when 14 came out, I was like, I don't want anything to do with that, because at that point, I just felt like, well, I played 11 and I kind of hit my point where I was like, okay, I'm not really having fun anymore. So like at the time that 14 came out, which God knows how long ago that was, it was like more of the same, right? So I'm now hearing from friends that have been playing it ever since it came out that it's like developed and all these things came out in it. And so some friends that I really like mentioned they were playing, and I was kind of like, man, maybe I'll give it a try, you know? And so I downloaded the demo, and like, oh my God, I was so overwhelmed so quickly. There was so much stuff happening. And I just felt like, I don't know what it was, but like, I was just like, no. That was just my gut reaction. I was like, no. All
right, wait, but two questions. One, you're saying 11, but what is 11 an online service thing, or is 11 just like a series
11
staple?
Was the first Final Fantasy MMO.
Oh, okay.
And it may still run today. I honestly am not sure. But I assume that since they put so much into 14 that it probably doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, or it's fallen by the wayside.
that was the Final Fantasy XI Online, a massively multiplayer online role playing game. Yeah, so that again, was what
totally missed that train. So, and then my other question about that experience you just described is, even with you jumping in with friends, you still felt overwhelmed. And maybe the question is like, hey, these are friends who are level 65 and have been playing it for years, and you're level 0. Can those two people still have a meaningful...
usually, like, the way that it works in Diablo, and I've had friends do this for me, just like you said, it's like, come and meet me, and then, they take me into a high level area, I hang back, they go nuts and get all the experience, and it also goes to me, right? A really great thing.
Love it.
But, I'm sure there's probably a way. I don't know. I think there's just, I don't know, there's something about the idea of, in my mind now, of how much time it would take up for me to have a game that I regularly checked in with in that way.
Yeah.
And it's like the commitment of that idea, I would just have to be so absorbed with the game.
Yes, exactly. Because it's like, what would you rather be doing? Hopping from game to game, waiting for something to really hook you, or going back to the game that is great and you're obsessed with, and you're in the Discord and you're on the wiki, and because that was even Warframe for me for a time. And then I was like, I came to a point where I was like, I am starting to play this for the wrong reasons, and now it's time to stop. And that's a real danger. I think I'm confident lots of people face that as well, and hopefully are able to say, "Hey, it's too much. It's affecting other things."
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it fit better in my life when I was single, and like and owned one pet, and it's like now I own 3 pets and they need a lot of things, and I also own a husband and he needs a lot of things. And then it's also like I also have gotten into art, and so I would like to spend a lot of time doing art, and there's just a lot of other factors, not just the how interesting the game is, I think.
Absolutely. The one other thing I was intrigued by Megalith's comments here is that epic story, epic JRPG story, and that the first, or that they're saying the biggest downside is that the first part of the story that I guess on ramps new players is 10 years old, and it feels dated. So like all the mid and end game and expansion stuff, people are going bananas for because it looks and plays and the stories are great, but that the beginning point of the game is kind of meh or kind of dated, which is like that's a really interesting problem to solve, because how here's you and me, we're like, oh, it would be cool to check out Final Fantasy XIV, and then like you said, you started it up and you're like, nah, this is not working for me. It
wasn't like it was bad. I just felt like it just did, like I wasn't, and that makes me wonder if that's part of it, like I mean, I didn't get very far into the story, but maybe that's a part of, why I couldn't engage. But, I like hearing that people around me are really enjoying, their like long running games and like revisiting them after a long time. I think that's nice. And I know what that's like. Yes. So, maybe one day I'll find another one. I mean, I guess it's the next Diablo.
In Diablo, did you have a crew, or in any game, did you ever like run with a group of friends? Maybe that's real life friends or internet friends who was like, yep, it's Wednesday night, we are all logging on to do the thing.
I never did. And to be honest with you, when I think about that, I kind of wish it's an experience I did have, because I think it would have been something that would have made me feel really happy and something I would have looked forward to. But it was something that I, for whatever reason, never had.
Yep. Same. I respect it, and I never had it. But you occasionally meet some cool randos here and there, and then
you may have it, because when Diablo comes out, I will be bothering everyone.
I will take that. Oh, you're talking about 2?
2 or 4, honestly. Like I'm going to probably sink deep into both.
If 4 gets back to the roots, then I'm down. We've talked about this either here or elsewhere, but like I really wanted to like 3, and it just did not work. It didn't click, and I don't know. I don't exactly know why.
I have the same issue. I don't know why. I was super excited. It's beautiful. I don't think there's anything that I feel like I can look at that and then look at 2 and be like, oh, it's significantly different. Like, except I definitely missed certain classes. Like I used to love to play the assassin, and that class just got completely removed. That was like my jam. But yeah, I don't know what it was exactly. But I tell you what, I don't know how familiar you are with like some of the teaser stuff for Diablo 4, but oh man, it looks so good.
It looks really good, and it looks like it's going back to the or I'll rephrase that. I think my beef with 3, 1 was, oh my God, this is the spookiest, creepiest, weird, newest thing I have a very distinct memory of Diablo 1 being the first rated M for mature game.
Ooh, that I didn't know that.
Not in history.
Oh, that
I don't know
got.
that, but that I was in a store with my mom probably, and it was like, it's Diablo. I gotta get this as a big Warcraft fanatic. This is the next game from Blizzard, and it's, oh my God, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I don't know. It's like probably has blood in it, so I don't know. And there was some, I don't remember what it was, but it was a point of contention. And then I think I like had a birthday or became a certain age, and I certainly was not 17 or 18 or whatever the recommended age was, but she was like, all right, you're okay to get this gory game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But one was so dark and creepy and novel, and then 2 was like, hey, all the cool stuff about 1, let's go to other cool places and have that Diablo experience. And then 3 was like, you're basically super powered and can go anywhere and do anything. And those creepy demons who were like the bosses of 1, who were so hard. Well, now you're just vaporizing them constantly.
Right. And you're but that changes everything.
It changes everything. Yeah.
I wonder if people that loved that and then were like, wait, why is this so easy? Were people that then went on to play stuff like Dark Souls. Because one criticism you'll hear, right, about like Diablo 3 is that, the visual style like had 3D models for the first time. And it also, was definitely like more colorful than, what before was like this very kind of drab,
dark
setting. And like, I know that it was kind of considered like cartoony is not really the right word, but just
but I know
quite so when I sign up for Diablo, I'm like, I want grim darkness.
Yes, it's all those factors combined into a package that is Diablo 3, and I'm like looking at it and playing it and feeling it and be like, this doesn't feel like Diablo. It feels like a very slick, polished up Diablo that that I didn't ask for,
Well, I guess they must have figured that out, because everything about 4 is like, we're going back to this like incredibly dark place. And I'm like, yes.
Okay. So let's jump into 2 when it arrives, and then let's see what 4 comes to be. I'm on board for that. I could use some Diablo in my life.
Yeah. And also, I think maybe it might be worthwhile to like put in the show notes or let listeners know that we do have a Discord channel, which is technically my Discord that I use for my stream on Twitch. However, both Matt and I decided that it would be good to also make a podcast channel. So if you would like to join our Discord and hang out in there and talk about games, that's something that we would be happy to share a way to do that.
Yes.
Link
in the show notes starting today. I don't think it was there previously, but we got to get it in there because you have wonderful folks in your community, and I do like hanging out with them, and hopefully we'll be playing some games with folks pretty soon.
Sounds
Speaking
awesome.
of playing games, what are you currently playing?
Well, what I said in our show notes was that I'm not really playing Resident Evil Village right now. I'm watching Resident Evil Village, and here's what happens, right? So if you're in a relationship with a person, married, whatever, whom when a game comes out, the both of you are very excited to play it, and you don't want to buy the game twice, it'll probably be one of you playing and one of you watching. So sometimes we'll trade off. Like, when Last of Us 2 came out, my husband started playing first, and then I was just kind of mesmerized, and I was just like, I just want to watch you play. So
hold on. If I buy a game on my account, or my email is the master Nintendo account. So I buy a game, everyone in my family can enjoy that game on our various Switches. Does not work like that on PC. Oh no, you can share. I created an account for my daughter, and then she can log into Steam on her like school computer and play like, games that I have approved her to play.
Right. So like we only have
what's going
one
on with
computer.
PlayStation?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. Like they've talked about all types of different sharing things in the past, but one thing is for sure, like if you bought something on PC and then you want to go play it on like a console, you buying it again.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you're saying it's just a matter of like there's only one PC, there's only one screen.
Correct.
Patrick's
We
there.
only have
Okay.
one PC that's like capable of playing games of this caliber, graphically. And
So Village, so you're doing Village, so or Pat's doing Village on the PC. You
on
did
the
not
PC,
do PlayStation for this.
yeah, because the PC and especially our monitor is just like so high end that we're gonna get like the best experience here. So we do crowd around my office desk and like play it. But honestly, it's pretty fun. We get snacks and we watch, and I have been just starry-eyed over Village since the beginning. And I was, even when I saw the trailers, I loved everything about the feeling. It kind of had this like kind of like gothic, like I don't know, just like everything about it, like, you know, I don't know, it all appealed to me so much. And one thing that it really has made me think, although this is not the first time I've thought this, is that I wish I had experienced Resident Evil from the beginning.
Okay.
And you know, just because it is such a legendary series and just because people around me have been so impacted by it, but my experience of it is different because I didn't start playing Resident Evil games until 5. And I played 5 with a friend with couch co-op, and I had a terrific time. But, you know, it definitely was like, oh man, there's all this story that like I've missed. And it sounds like something I'd really enjoy, you know? So when
the games are connected, like, are they in the same universe, or is it like Final Fantasy where it's like
not
a new
like Final
thing?
Fantasy, I don't think, but I'm not experienced enough or knowledgeable enough about Resident Evil on the whole. I do know the Umbrella Corporation runs through all of the games and like the way, and you know, the ways that all intertwines with the stories. But like, for instance, the protagonist of Village was also the protagonist of the prior game, Resident Evil 7.
Well, that was my next question of like, wait, is it the same characters? But some of the games are like, nope, completely new thing, new characters, sometimes, but same like, world.
Yeah, like you have some characters that are in the first game that turn up in other games. And so I guess I would say they're more intertwined than, you know, a lot of other series might be, but that they kind of also like any of them could be played alone. You just would probably miss out on story elements, right?
Yeah.
But since I find it to be pretty action well, I mean, not the way 5 was, but like in general, I feel as if Resident Evil is action oriented, which is something I'll get more to in a minute because I want to talk about that. Even the spookiest survival horror Resident Evils are like more action, you know, versus like replaying Silent Hill has made me think so much about how like fighting was like not a focus at all in that game. You know, the whole point was to feel, you know, helpless, right? So I think, you know, between the option of in a virtual world feeling helpless and feeling powerful, I mean, what do you want to do? I don't want to be helpless. Like
but that depends. That depends. There is a lot of fun and emotion and fear and struggle and triumph to be had when you're not a fucking superhero. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And I mean, obviously that worked for me when I played Silent Hill 2 many years ago. You know, like I think there's the right settings, but maybe this is another like time in my life type of thing where like when I play games right now, I really enjoy feeling powerful. You know,
well, you know, in a world where, you know, we can't control, you know, the outcomes of things and, you know, viruses dictate our lives and the geopolitical situation seems pretty grim. I want to fucking murder some shit. That's I'm there with you.
So maybe that's just high right now for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that's turned up.
No doubt. There are games that are like the whole point of this game is being helpless and kind of sneaking around and figuring out clever ways to triumph. And then there are games, and I'm going to talk about it in a bit, where the whole point is to start very helpless and exposed and to slowly accumulate weapons or technologies or wealth or whatever to then become a god, basically. You know,
Nice.
even like a Sim City or a Civ is like you start with a settler and you then dominate the world somehow. So is Silent Hill that, or is it helpless all the way?
It's helpless all the way, but
Okay.
I mean, it's also so psychological and so dark and so, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't think I can spoil a 20-year-old game, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That
you did give me the lowdown on the plot early on, maybe first episode, second episode. So yeah, so I know what you mean. I guess I didn't know all the mechanics of that, how it wraps up.
It's definitely a rare game, and like revisiting it has made me think about that as well. Like, you know, we're not doing a lot of this kind of internal darkness exploring in games quite in the same way. I think it's around, but just not. I mean, it was never a big thing because it's like that's a lot of people don't want to have that experience, you know. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off of Village.
Village
right?
is different.
So yeah, I mean, you know, Village is very much an adventure. You know, you're not doing any navel gazing in Village. You know, you are like. You know, you're Ethan Winters, the guy from the first game. You've survived this horrible situation, you know, but, you know, you've come out okay. Okay is relative, but you've come out okay and you have a family now. And then everything goes to shit again. And I'm like, wow, poor Ethan Winters. But, you know, the TLDR is basically that something terrible happens to your family and you end up in a village that looks to be ransacked and you don't know what's going on. And a mysterious old woman points at this giant castle that's in the background and tells you that, you know, that has something to do with the whole situation. And so your thing you do is to go into the castle to try to save a family member and figure out what to do next. So I have really enjoyed this. This is my favorite in tone, I think. The elements that they used for 7 were very much like you've wandered into this creepy house, and you're getting trapped there for another family-oriented reason. But it kind of went with the like. Have you ever? I don't know if you were an X-Files fan back in the day, but did you ever see the episode that they were very famous for called Home?
No, and as much as we talk about X-Files, I really did not watch much of it.
Okay, well, so the gist of it is basically that in Home, Mulder and Scully come across the trope is a family living in a house that are very isolated from society and shit is super wrong inside that house.
Yeah, totally.
And there's a scene in the episode where like there's like not a child, like a young man with no arms and no legs. And like they roll him out from under a bed, like where he's been like hidden or something. And I remember that was like a super shocking scene back then. But, you know, Resident Evil 7 had you trapped in a house with some similarly insane people. And I think they did a really good job with that one. I know after 6 was like super actiony and a lot of people didn't care for it. So they wanted to like move back towards like the survival horror, like scary being inside a house, you know, kind of like the way you're inside the mansion in the first one.
Right.
And I mean, this one is interesting, I think, in that you are inside, you know, a castle, but I mean, it basically does feel like a mansion, right? So it kind of has some mirroring, I think, to the first game. But
I mean, if it's to distill the trope, are we calling it a haunted house? Is that what this is, or no?
I mean, technically, I guess you could, like, on paper, you can be like, well, you know,
is this a haunted house game?
There are evil spirits in this house, but like, it's just not really delivered. That, at least that's not how it hit me. To me, a haunted house is when you can't really see the ghosts.
Okay.
And in this one, like, they're very much, you can see them. Like,
is Resident Evil like a viral outbreak kind of thing, or is it a supernatural thing? Or both?
Well, it has some elements of both, but the whole Umbrella Corporation theme is all about like a viral infection and like the way that has affected the world around them. So, and
is it implied that this is the real world, or is this some other universe that we are in? How do you read that?
This game, it seems like it's the real world. I don't get it as like another universe. I don't know if any of the other games ever had that, but like they've always appeared in, settings that look like the world that we live in to some degree.
Yeah. Or maybe like, is it like, hey, buddy, you're from Colorado, a real place? Or is it like,
no,
Mystical Springs?
Not that I know of. Like in this game, you appear to be in a village that like could be in like Romania. That's like the vibe that I get,
okay.
But like they never say where you are.
They never say that. Okay.
No.
Okay. That's what I was getting at.
It definitely takes inspiration from things like that. But I think the thing that so far for me has been the strongest about this game has been the setting and what it feels like to interact in the setting. So it's really the action of it for me. The writing is I'd say like above average for this type of game, but definitely not like anything I'd write home about. I'm enjoying the story, but like it's not superlative, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I know what's happening next, but like I kind of think of Resident Evil as like a big Hollywood movie kind of game.
I was just going to say, everything I keep hearing about it is like, give me that popcorn because I am
and that's
here
how it
for
feels. It feels just like that. It's like you will not be thinking about it in a week, but like it's super enjoyable when you're playing it, right? So there have been some big moments in the game. Like, Resident Evil is famous for its jump scares, and I appreciate that because I think the jump scares were very well done. None of them are super like obvious where they're coming. They managed to make it pretty good.
Cool.
There are also a couple of moments that you get to that are pretty unnerving where you're like, oh man, like, wow, like that really does make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I think that's pretty cool. We also got to a part in the game. I don't know how far in we are, but we got to a part in the game which I literally was like, wow, like I was super like pleased and like excited with like the crazy turn of events. So cool. I'm trying to stay as vague as possible, but
yes.
I'm looking super forward to the next time when we get to play it. It might be tonight. And one thing I reflected on a bit in writing up my kind of outline about it for tonight, I was like, well, is it survival horror? And like Resident Evil and Silent Hill were kind of both known as like, the silent, like, rather the survival horror, like genre spearheads. But, Silent Hill was kind of known for being more psychological and turned inward. And Resident Evil was much more like action-based. I would go as far as to say that Resident Evil had kind of like a Hollywood-esque kind of approach to storytelling, like from the get-go.
Yeah, cinematic action, not RPG. You're not building character stats or anything. You're just finding guns on the floor and then using them or whatever.
It's an action game for sure. Like an action series, I should say. But what I was thinking about, and I think this is partially because I've been replaying Silent Hill 2, is that I was like, well, what makes both these games survival horror, but they're pretty different. And the thought I had was that I am at a point in my life right now where I find that I prefer empowering survival horror versus what I'm thinking of now as helpless horror. I very much feel like Silent Hill is not necessarily straight up helpless horror because you definitely do have a gun, you do have some things, but like your main thing is never to like your aim, for instance, is never going to be like super important. Like how good you are with guns is never going to be super important. And like one thing I noticed with like the quote unquote bosses is that like they're not challenging at all in Village. No, I'm sorry. In Silent Hill 2.
Silent Hill.
They're very challenging in Village, in my opinion. Okay. But but yeah, like it was like that wasn't what that game was about.
Right.
And for myself, as much as I dig the psychological aspect, I think I'm in a space right now where I really enjoy being in a horror situation where like I can feel empowered and strike back, even if I'm in a game setting like Last of Us where I'm sneaking, like I'm stealthing. Like even then, I think that it just feels good to have power. And maybe that's kind of, going back to what we were talking about earlier. It's nice to have power in your fantasy worlds when, the real world is kind of a, dumpster fire.
Yes. Have you played Amnesia: The Dark Descent? I assume you have. I have not. I got it a long time ago because I'm not a horror person, but I was like, there's something about this. Everyone's loving it. I would like to experience it, but I never did. And so my question for you is like that game strikes me as like helpless horror. You have coined a term here, and I love it. But that's what that game is about. That's the fun of that. Of like, you have very few options, so you better just like fucking hide, because
right.
watch
and like
out.
for me, that's not fun. So there was a game series called Outlast, and I remember that when my husband and I started dating, the first one had come out and I was playing it, right? And so like it was a pretty creepy setting, but then once you like encountered like the guy that you needed to run from, that's like the majority of the game you spent just running from this like hulking guy. And I was like, that's not fun to me. For some people, it might be like, well, how can I outsmart this guy? And I was like, I want to fucking like shoot this guy. And I couldn't, So it kind of like was another, one of those kind of gamer moments, right? Where, I'm like, oh, but then I think about games like, the famed PT demo. And I'm like, I was like, that really wasn't about fighting. That was really about psychological terror. And boy, did it deliver. And I loved that.
And so you loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an execution thing. I think it's a lot harder to execute helpless horror well.
Have you played A Plague Tale: Innocence? Are you aware of this?
I have been wanting to play that game for a really long time. I think right now, we got it for free during one of the PlayStation Plus months as like a giveaway. And it's just sitting on that console. And I'm like, I really need to play this game because it just looks like something I would love.
I think you would. And I really loved it. Again, I could count the horror games I've ever played in my life on maybe two fingers, and that's one of them. And it's but it's not a power fantasy. It is a helpless sneak around, outsmart the enemies, but also the big enemy is the plague, which has ravaged. I played it at the beginning of COVID. I was like, well, COVID's bad. Let me play a game in 14th century France about the bubonic plague, but also like there's also supernatural mystical things happening as well. And so it's kind of like, it was like a fantasy, and it was very weird and stupid to play that at the time when the world was collapsing in that very beginning, but also great game. I really liked it. And I'm not even a horror fan. So I would love to know if you ever get to it, if you, which category it's in for you. Like, did you like it?
I will probably visit it actually, because I've been thinking a lot about what am I going to play after Silent Hill 2 is over, which I think next week will be the ending. And at first I was like, I'm going to play Silent Hill like in order. So, well, I mean, I already screwed that up by playing 2, but I was like, let me play like 3 and 4 in order. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? Playing 2 has taken somewhat of a psychological toll on me, although I wouldn't call it a heavy one. But I've spent so much time kind of mirrored in this really just muddy darkness of like this main protagonist's like struggle and his journey and what happens to him in the end. And I was like, I kind of think that I'm ready to play something empowered next. If I try to keep it horror that night, but so I might. And I was thinking about Village, and I might play Village, but I may also put A Plague Tale on my ideal list for that evening, because I think that would be fun.
Great story, great setting, and great characters. I'm sure if you've seen any of it, it's about a sister who is protecting her brother, who is special. Has powers, or it's emerging that he is, he has something going on, and really emotional, great story. I love the way you're framing it or like, I think most people are like, man, I played that spooky dark game, so now I'm going to play Mario 3D World, the brightest, funniest colors. And you're like, no, okay, I'm going to play a spooky game that's helpless. And now I'm going to play a spooky game where I kill everything. But you're still in horror mode.
Right. Oh no, I have unending hunger for horror. Unending. Like, I just like darkness. I don't know why. Sometimes I'll like turn to a good friend and be like, why do I like darkness so much? Why am I like this? But
why am I like this?
Right, regardless, I'm like this. So it's like, well, why even ask? So yes, that will continue to be, as I call it in the Discord, Morbid Monday.
Yes, love it. Look, you like darkness, but also, as you have said multiple times, you also like the cuteness. So
I do, and I like space games, and I like there's tons of different types of genres that I like. But for whatever reason, horror just makes me like rabid. I just start foaming at the mouth as soon as I see a horror game. So I don't know.
I have not heard a single bad thing about Village, aside from like, it's so over the top, popcorny, and I'm loving it, and that sounds fun.
Yeah, it really, really is. So perhaps I will be streaming it, and I might even stream it next week if I finish Silent Hill quickly enough. So if you don't end up playing it yourself, you can always come and hang out and watch it played.
There you go. That was actually my last question about it for you, which was, have you played it? Have you touched it, or is it only watching? I
think I actually was the one to start it and to play like the first hour. And then I think what I did was hand it over and be like, oh my God, you should try it. And then it just never came back to me.
You never got it back.
No, but one of the reasons why I think like this type of game is so great for a couple, like one to watch and the other to play, is because it is so cinematic and it is so popcorny.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just watching. I'm like, oh wow, what's gonna happen? Oh wow, that's cool. Like,
there are many games that I love that are not they're not watchable. I mean, if you're obsessed with them, then I suppose you can watch them, but they're not fun for a passerby to watch.
This is what cinematic games, I think, excel at. It's fun, for people to watch.
Yes, that is really nice, and I love that you guys hang together and play.
Yeah,
because in my house, we typically, aside from Animal Crossing, which was a family obsession, we tend to say, all right, well, I'm going to do this thing and you're going to do that thing. And if we're not watching a show or a movie together, then we're going to like do our separate things, because we are not, like, my wife is typically not interested in what I'm playing, although she did enjoy observing the competitive craziness of Squadrons, which I didn't expect her to care about. But she's like, I was like, I could go to the basement if you don't care about this. She's like, no, I want to see the next match. I want to see what happens. I was like, all right, cool. That was cool. So yeah.
Yeah, you never know what's going to draw someone in. That's actually really cool. True. Yeah, we don't frequently like sit down together. I mean, we do sometimes and play games, but like I found that we both really enjoy watching the other person play a game, even when we're not playing at all.
Nice.
So that's kind of nice.
And are you like glued? If you're watching Village to experience Village, I get it. But then are you also like, all right, I'm on the TV playing whatever, and then I'm going to be playing on the Switch a low impact game while you play the other game in the background? Like, I like that too.
I've done that too, and I do also enjoy that. Like, I did a lot of Animal Crossing that way, but like when we're doing a cinematic game, I'm pretty much just glued to watching it.
Yeah, you have to be. You're gonna miss it.
I know.
All right. Let me tell you about a game that is really very different from what you just described. But
You've mentioned this game to me before, by the way. So I immediately remembered. But I bought it already. I already own this game.
Great.
But sell it to me anyway, even though I already own it.
Look, the true selling is not, hey, did you spend $30 on this? The true selling is, hey, you should play it. Spend 40 hours in this world. And it might be my most recommended game in some in some circles, in some dimensions. And I think the reason I said you should check it out is because it has horror elements.
Nice.
Oh, we did a listicle video at work, which was like the best horror games. And you did 98% of the work there because you know the space. And then I also was like, and you know what else I'm going to put on this list? A game called Subnautica, which is if I made my definitive list of top 5 favorite games, personal favorites of all time, which I would like to do on this show with you, the original Subnautica is there for me, and I'll explain why, and then I'll also say why I think you would dig it, or maybe why you wouldn't. Maybe it doesn't have enough of the things that you want to justify it. I loved Subnautica to death. Truly one of my favorites. And so now, after 2 years, 2+ years in early access, the sequel, Subnautica Below Zero, is out of early access as of this past week.
Oh my God, you must have been like delighted.
You know, I knew it would be a long road, and I knew that early access time. I knew that I resolved to say, this game is a sandboxy game, and I sometimes jump into early access sandboxy games to enjoy it with the community. However, both Subnauticas have great sci-fi plots and stories, characters, not so much on purpose, and there's reasons for that. All that to say, like, I didn't want to play this game in a like sort of buggy, half-made status, and then hit a wall and be like, well, I guess I'll never know the end of the story until I replay it again for one point. I just said, no, call me when it's done and I'll be there. And so 1.0 is out for Below Zero. I'm playing it on PC. Oh, it's out on... They ported it to Switch, and my goodness, like, it's one of those miracles. How does this even exist on Switch? It does. It looks and appears to run very well on Switch, both ones. So if you're not sure or whatever, or you want to just like, lay in bed and explore an alien ocean,
I love that about the Switch so much.
The Switch version looks good, man.
Well, I did buy it for PC because at the time I was like, everything's going to be beautiful on the PC. And it is. But one of the other issues I have is that when you sit at a desk 8 hours a day, you don't necessarily want to sit there another 2 to 3 to play the game, right? So I'm shit, I got to really be careful about what I buy to play here because it may never get played if I'm not like really, really into it. So that's why I was like, talk to me more about this game because it might be something that I get really, really into. It is literally sitting on my desktop. I can see it right now.
Yep. Play it on PC because, like, you have a great PC, 60 frames, max graphics. Like, that is how this world really should be experienced because, my goodness, it is a spectacular and wholly original world unto itself. So, the reason I love this is it's the perfect mix of survival, like base building, which is like my favorite kind of game. Typically, I'm very drawn to those kinds of games. And like I said, a really cool sci-fi story. In both games, you are like alone. I guess in the second one, you're like a scientist, but in the first one, you're just a survivor of a shipwreck on an alien planet, and it's an ocean planet. So the entire planet is covered in water, and you are stranded with some little bits of technology. You crash your ship, and your ship is wrecked, and you have like basically a lifeboat, like a small habitat where you can climb back in there to not die every so often.
Wow.
But like, you're stuck. But the backstory here is that you're not the first person who's ever been on this planet. There has been a corporation that has been checking out this planet or investigating this planet and building settlements on this planet, but no one is currently here. So you are exploring around, trying to cobble together the resources to not die, basically, and also see what the fuck happened to your ship and to previous settlements that have been there. And all of the story is told through audio logs, and you're using a scanner to like scan wreckage fragments, which then is like, oh, well, the scanner says that this kind of happened here. Or you scan something and then you can develop a new blueprint that you can then incorporate into your gameplay loop. And I alluded to this a little bit earlier when we were talking about like helpless games versus powerful games. And again, one of the reasons that I love this type of game is that you start and you are really helpless. It's an alien world. It's an ocean. So you can't breathe. You have to come to the surface to breathe. Like, you can hold your breath or have an oxygen tank for 30 seconds. And you're like, whoa, there's something down there. Let me swim. Oh shit. I gotta get past it. And you get up to the surface and you're like, like you're playing this game and you get oxygen and you're like, whew, okay, I'm still alive. Whew, okay, made it back to the surface. It's very visceral in that way.
Nice.
But there's something down there. It's a cave or a resource or a plant, or like, you're like, if I could just get down, I could figure out a thing that's down there. And so it's that constant struggle. You need to keep yourself hydrated. You need to keep yourself fed. So you're capturing alien fish and turning them into food and water. And you get like a fabricator. So there's a mechanism in your life pod that's like a 3D printer, and it can fabricate anything as long as you have the blueprint for it. So you turn natural resources slowly into technologies and food that you can use to survive. So you start so helpless and scared, but slowly you're scanning wreckage and you're finding pieces of your ship, and you're finding other artifacts in the world, and you're starting to put pieces together, and all of a sudden you can make a little room that you can inhabit, or you can craft a vehicle, or you can craft a tool that will allow you to breathe a little bit longer or dive a little bit deeper. And you go from a helpless, squish into creating a sprawling, high-tech base underwater in an underwater planet. And also, side note, name any water level in any game that is good. I defy you to do that. They're all bad. Here's an entire game that happens underwater, and it's so cool. It's so cool.
So are you trying to say that when you're Mario in the frog suit that sucks? Because I think we're gonna have to fight.
No, you're absolutely right. Mario in the frog suit is it great.
Might be the only exception, truly, but yeah. Sorry, just had to say that.
You are right, and then isn't that interesting that like the helplessness of naked Mario in the water is like and then you get a tool, you get a suit that allows you to command the water level. Yeah. I like that.
Definitely.
But here's where I'm going to make the appeal to you in two dimensions. One, things are not as they seem on this mysterious alien world. Mm-hmm. And by alien, I mean alien wildlife, not sentient aliens. Or is there? Okay, I'm really not going to get into that. And two, it is a horror game also. And that is also what the community especially gets memey about. And by that, I'll say, you start the game in a relatively safe area of this planet. It's like shallow waters, coral reefs, cute fishies swimming around. And, don't go too deep in a cave because you're going to drown. But, it's pretty chill. You can slowly make your way. But the game pushes you, nudges you through the technology tree and through the story arc to pushes you toward newer biomes that are quite radically different from the starting location.
Wow.
And so you're starting to swim closer. You're developing technologies that allow you to go a little deeper, a little further, and you're getting down there, and it's dark, and you're swimming, and you're worried about oxygen, and you know, did I pack enough water to like not, you know, die here? And all of a sudden you hear sounds, and you're like, holy shit, the fuck is that?
While you were explaining this, I was like, you know, sometimes when we're talking about a game, I want to look at like visuals. Yes. So I just pulled up like a Google Images search of Subnautica, right?
Yep.
And one of the things I clicked on, the title is, I can't stop playing Subnautica even though it scares the piss out of me.
Yes. Yes.
But like literally, if I have to think about real world things that I'm afraid of, the bottom of the ocean is dead first on that list. I am fucking terrified of some of the stuff that has actually come out of the real life ocean. So I'm realizing that I'm missing out. Like you were telling me that I'm missing out on something that I am going to absolutely love. And looking at these pictures, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it.
But turn all of that off, because the joy of this game, I ruined 20-ish% of the original Subnautica for myself because I was watching streamers play it. I was seeing things in the subreddit, and the community around this game is like hyper vigilant around spoilers, because the things you discover in under the depths of the ocean are outstanding. So turn it all off. If you are going to commit to playing this, don't ever read or look at anything ever again, and just go in blind. Because
in life, don't open the internet ever again.
No, that's a rule of thumb for sure. It's called I'm going to mispronounce it, like thalassophobia, which is a clinical definition of I'm terrified of deep water, or I'm terrified of what might come out of deep water or being in the ocean. And it's a real thing, and you are not wrong. It is a number one fear for lots of people, and this game is it.
So I have a question, because looking at this, I think when I quickly glazed over our guide here for tonight, I was like, oh, Subnautica. Okay, we talked about this, but Below Zero, is it a completely brand new story? Are you playing the same character, or is there no connection between the two story-wise except like, you know, the setting?
Yep, great question. Completely new character, completely new story, and honestly, the beginning of this game, I'm really hesitant to say identical to the original Subnautica, because it's not quite, but like it's all the same technologies, it's all the same gameplay loops in a different region of the same planet. So for my money, I'm now playing Subnautica again in the form of Below Zero, and my review is 14 out of 10 because I fucking love Subnautica. So I'm having a blast.
Do you think they improved on things in the first game, in your opinion?
In my opinion, not really.
Okay, so it's more of what's great.
It's more of the same, which has been a criticism of it. And also, another criticism of it is that this second game, Below Zero, is more character-driven, is more story-driven. And people don't like that as much.
Really?
I'm finding it to be fun, because the original game is magic because you are alone and you have no idea what the fuck happened. Go figure it out. And it's very isolating. It's very spooky. It's very, there's a worry. There's an aloneness in it. And this next game is, you are still alone, but there's a lot more like, audio logs of all these characters talking, and there's all these scientists and corporate people, and there's a lot of chit chat going on. And the premise of the second game is that you are searching for your sister, who is presumed dead. She was a scientist doing some sort of research, and she is presumed dead by the corporation, but your player character is like, nah, something's up here. And so I don't know much about it, and that's not a spoiler. That's like minute 1 of the game. And I like that. I think that's cool, and I'm hooked. I'm in. I'm in because a new story, a new region of the same planet that I love. when you play the first, to answer your question, no, you could play this game separately, but don't do that because I'm finding snippets of lore that are connected to the first game, and
I love that.
I love that. So I want to find those cool things.
Cool. Well, yeah, I would definitely not jump to the first. I mean, rather to the second. I want to go to the first.
Go all the way, because the first is the pure experience of the game. If you love the first, play the second. If you were like, that was cool, I enjoyed Subnautica, then don't play the second because you got the core loop.
Right.
I'll say this: the one core flaw of both of these games, the flaw is kind of the strength. And by that I mean, you progress in the world by, like I said, scanning and acquiring resources and wreckage. And some of the game is like, oh, there's a signal coming from here, or oh, there's a beacon here, so go there to progress the story. And you don't have to do that. You can just say, like, I want to spend an hour, painting my submarine, because that's what I want to do right now. So I don't want to do the story right now. I want to customize my base. I want to find more resources. I want to grind. But when you're ready to proceed, you then go to that next thing. And there's multiple things happening. There's actually multiple storylines happening at the same time. So you can progress storyline A, or you can take a break, progress storyline B. Or what usually happens is like, oh, there's something I need there, but I literally cannot dive deep enough because my submarine will become crushed by the pressure. So I need to find an upgrade for my submarine so that I can progress the story. And I love that. The flaw in that system is that the technology is scattered around, so you can find pieces of technology that you have already found. And it's like, oh, I'm really looking for the cutter tool so I can cut my way into a piece of wreckage. Well, I've found 600 submarine scans, and I just need the goddamn cutter. I can't find it. And it's out there, and there's probably hundreds of them. I'm just having bad luck finding them. And what happened to me with Below Zero was there is a specific tool that allows you to start constructing a base, aka the coolest, most fun part of the game that I love. And I walked right past it when I was exploring a settlement or something. And I was like, I knew from playing the first game, I was like, I should be building a base right now. Everything about this story and about the whatever is compelling me to start building, and I can't because I missed one thing. And then I had to go back to the wiki or to whatever, read a spoiler and be like, shit, I walked by the thing that I should have seen. And it was a bummer to me that gate, that thing I needed to progress was not more abundant, because lots of other things were very abundant. So it was, and that happened to me in the first game too, where I was like, I'm trying to find something. I know it's fucking down here in this cave. What the hell am I not seeing? And then I had to go to the wiki and be like, oh, okay, look that direction. And it was there. And it's like your whole story and your whole payoff is hinging on, did I look up, when I was in this cave? And that's a really, that's a bummer of a choke point in the otherwise beautiful arc of the game that pushes you forward at the right curve. It teaches you the game systems at a beautiful curve. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're progressing at a beautiful curve. And then you're like, wait, what the fuck did I miss? What's happening? Why am I not getting this? And that is it. That is my criticism. But also that is easily overcome by like, let me just look up this little teensy thing. Got it. Okay, cool. I'm back. And loving it. I'm loving Below Zero because I love the original Subnautica. And I think this game is for you. Well, let me ask you this. I'm selling you on sci-fi story, which you will love. I'm selling you on horror, which you really will love. Do you enjoy the grindy, like, I need to get 7 titanium to build this room, which will then allow me to unlock the next tech tree? Do you dig that the way I dig that, or is that a turn off for you?
I dig it. It just depends on the game, but there are many games in which I dig that.
Okay.
So
give it a shot.
Yeah, it's probably going to work. So yeah, I'll have to report back.
Yeah. So wait, what's on your agenda here? We had another game that you were gonna, or was it you or me?
No, I don't have any other games that I played this week.
Yeah. No, I mean like that you were like, oh, I'm gonna play. I mean, we were talking about Diablo 2, but
I was thinking about maybe playing Resident Evil in order, but I mean that's like a very loose maybe at the moment. So I mean, knowing me, I'm just gonna get distracted by something else. I mean, let's just be fair. Like,
let's be honest. That's how it goes.
Yep, pretty much.
That's how it goes. So, all right, what are you streaming this week? This episode, of course, goes out on Friday, and that's your night, right?
Well, it used to be, but I decided that after quite a few weeks of doing the Friday night stream, at first it was new and novel and fun, and I was looking forward to it. But with some time, as I got used to it, I was like, man, like that's when the work week ends, and like I need a minute. So yeah. Even though I'm pretty sure that Friday night is probably a more popular slot than what I'm about to try, which is Saturday and like the, mid-morning, I was like, this is my stream. Okay. So like if two people come, I don't care. I'm still getting the art time in. So whatevs. But I also was like, hey, sometimes people like me like to laze around the house on a Saturday in the morning or even all day. Maybe those people will come. So we'll see. So it is now going to be 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays for the art stream. And the Monday horror stream remains at the same time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I will not be lettering on Saturday. However, I am going to try doing a watercolor painting. So I'm nervous / excited about that.
Nice. Is there a subject in mind, or is it you're going to pull it out of the air?
Just to do a galaxy, because it's a really nice starting point for beginners and they're just super beautiful. Nice. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I've been taking a class on how to make different types of galaxy watercolors. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I dig it.
It should be satisfying to watch.
Yes. All right.
So what about you?
That's Saturday. Nothing much. We have a new video on the channel, which is just a parody of a 90s infomercial about a karate school, because my son watched Reading Rainbow with a karate segment, and now he just chops everything. So we turned it into like a VHS, like a mail order karate school. So that I'm happy with how that came out. So that's at Free Dad Videos on YouTube. And the other thing I wanted to remind folks, if they're still with us here, is that the link to your Discord will be in the show notes here of this episode and all episodes going forward, because please join us. We are talking a lot about chit-chatting a lot about what we're playing, and then talking about it on the pod here. So if you'd like to get involved, if Twitter's not your jam, but you love Discord, get us there. Click on the link in the show notes below. And thank you as always for entering the chat with us. Our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. And Twitter, Discord, but also like send us an email directly. Have entered the chat at gmail.com. As you've heard, we have read many emails on the show, and even in this short, young time that we've been doing this. So we would love to hear what you're playing, or if you would like to chime in about the specific games that we have talked about. Final Fantasy, Destiny 2, Subnautica, Resident Evil Village, anything in between. Let us know what your thoughts are on those, because we would love to talk about that as well on future episodes. And if you enjoyed, leave us a rating or a review on the podcast platform.
Yes, please.
Of your choice. Please do.
It matters.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Tell a friend. Tell your friends, both of them, about this show. That's one of my favorite jokes ever. Anything else? What else is cooking?
No, I think we're peacing out.
Peacing out. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will talk with you next week.